people. Welcome back to Sport Hub, and we are going to be doing a bit of a review on the Grand Prix that we've just all seen. Obviously, we've just had the Belgian Grand Prix, and yeah, it was the easiest race that Max will ever have. But before we get into all of that, please do hit the like button and the subscribe button. If you want to join join the channel and become a member, you can for as little as 99p. But let's get into it. And well, my thoughts on this racer is fairly simple. I think we all know who is going to win the title this season. I would be shocked, really shocked, to see Max not win it. I think he is having some of the best driving he's been doing ever. It's the best I've ever seen him. The Ferraris just don't look strong. They're not looking at all competent at anything. They can't get a decision. I mean, Leclerc should have been up there with Max, right? They both come from similar in the grid, but then at the safety car pitting, Charles after 4 laps on the softs just I don't know. It didn't make sense because then he's got to get through all of the pack again. When those tires can't have been that finished that quickly. But whilst of course we could sit here and talk about Ferrari making mistakes again, in my view, we have to praise Max. You know, he started near the back of the grid. This is a track that can do plenty of overtaking, as Max proved, but also that power unit in the Red Bull is something else. It's an incredible power unit. You could just see that going down the Kemmel Straight every single time Max was having a field day, whether that be overtaking Lewis, overtaking Carlos. You know, he overtook pretty much most of the field. But you're probably wondering, well, why has he mentioned Lewis? And that is because Lewis, I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. And it symbolises really what we saw last season. And everyone just blaming Max all of the time. And I'm quite frankly sick of it, to be fair. And I'm just so glad that we could see today the sort of issues that people have driving against Lewis. And Alonso was right in his team radio when he said Lewis can only win races and drive from pole, and that is so true. We saw it back when Alex Albon was driving in the Red Bull. That, you know, quite frankly, Lewis can't attack and he can't race, and I think it's time for him to retire. I do, and look, he's won 7 world titles, and broke so many records that Max is going to go on and break, in my opinion. But it's time to go. It's time to retire. He's being outdone by George Russell in a car that, you know, was sort of built for Lewis in a way, because Russell wasn't there last season to have any input at all on sort of the direction of the car. So it's a car that was built for Lewis. You know, they've never built a car for Bottas or even Nico Rosberg. So they built this car with Lewis's driving in mind. And what's he being done? What's he doing? Being outdone by George in his first season at Mercedes, and he's just being made to look like an idiot. And I think it's time to go. I think it's a strong statement. It is a strong statement for me to sit here now and say, actually, it's time for Lewis Hamilton to hang up his boots and to leave the sport. But I do think it's time. You know, this just proved to me that he can't race anymore. And we saw it when Alex was in the Red Bull. The amount of times them two came together, I can think of 2. One at Austria and one at Brazil. And then all the times that them two came together between Max and Lewis last season, and everyone just sort of blame Max. And it's like, I'm just so glad that we're getting to see Max actually wheel-to-wheel racing with Charles Leclerc like we saw in Saudi Arabia and all the other places, and them two not collide. But Lewis cannot even get down the Kemmel Straight and into the into a fast right left ahead of Alonso, and it just symbolised really where I think Lewis is at, which is I think it's time for him to leave the sport and pursue something else. And I know that I'll get a lot of hate from Lewis fans, especially. But look, we all have an opinion, and that is my opinion. I think for me, it's really time for Lewis to hang up his boots, because he's not at that level anymore, and he's being outdone by the newer drivers, Max, Charles, Russell. Definitely the four that come to mind, and all of them are outdoing him. So I think it's time for him to go. Alonso was obviously always going to sort of go down the pack, but a bad day for McLaren. Neither of them in the points. Both Alpines are in the points though, and that battle for fourth is really going to heat up now. I think we all know that probably Red Bull are going to win the constructors and the drivers. Ferrari and Mercedes probably going to be battling for second now, and it's mental the advantage Ferrari had, and now they're fighting Mercedes. But I suppose that just shows exactly how well Red Bull have done, and this whole flexi floor issue that apparently, according to George Russell, was going to bring them closer to Mercedes. I've never seen them further away, personally. But yeah, the battle for fourth is going to be very exciting and interesting. Daniel Ricciardo obviously might have an idea in this, because if he goes to Alpine, he'll be like, well, fourth for Alpine might get a bit more money. But knowing the type of guy Daniel is, he'll be fighting for points right until the last minute. And I'm sure the same with Fernando, because obviously he's going to be joining Aston Martin next season to replace Sebastian Vettel, who is obviously retiring at the end of the season. But this battle for fourth is going to be really exciting and intriguing, and maybe obviously that is why McLaren are making that switch, because they're now starting to think fourth is really at jeopardy. And I don't think Daniel, or maybe Zach Brown is thinking, I don't think Daniel has got it anymore. And we are seeing younger drivers sort of come into the sport, and Oscar Piastri is obviously probably the next one and joining McLaren. But that battle for fourth, Ocon, I thought was very good. Obviously came from 16th, 17th up to 7th. I've just watched his post-match or post-race interview, and he spoke like a leader of the team, and that'll be very interesting to see who Alpine think of bringing in, because Ocon seems to be going, well, I'm going to be team lead, or at least show them what he can do in these last 9 races, because obviously he is probably right now the team leader, because Fernando is leaving, so they probably are thinking of Ocon as a bit more of a favourable one, but I don't think they'll ever tell Fernando that. And if they do, he'll probably just, well, he doesn't care, does he? That's the type of guy Fernando is. He cares about himself, and ultimately in this sport you have to be selfish, and he's clearly seeing something at Aston Martin. Maybe it's the 2-year deal. Maybe it's that job security that he's really enjoying. A big shout out to Alex Albon. I thought he defended really well today. I thought it was absolutely. I thought he was superb in theory, because he's in a Williams. He's in a Williams, and he's outperforming. He's outperforming Latifi. Not difficult. I think I could outperform Latifi, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And obviously another point for Williams and for Albon, and I'm so happy for him, because obviously he took that year out after obviously losing his seat to Checo, which I do again for what Red Bull are wanting to achieve. I thought that was the right move to bring in Checo, a bit more experience, understands sort of he understands his role in the team, and he can perform for that role. But it's really good to see Alex Albon take that year out, come back in a Williams, and really again be another team leader for that team. Obviously, they lost George Russell, which was always going to be very difficult to replace, but it looks like they've replaced him with someone who really knows how to get the best out of that car. Latifi, on the other hand, took out Bottas and obviously achieved nothing. I'm pretty sure he came last, didn't he? Yeah, he did. 1 lap down. Yeah, I mean, Latifi for me has to leave at the end of the season. If Williams want to be a serious team now, they clearly have the finances, obviously, of their new takeover from last season. They have to get rid of Latifi, and they have to bring someone, a young driver, preferably from their driver academy, probably, is what they'll want to be looking at. But they certainly need to make that switch, because Latifi has proven that he just can't do it. And I'm sick of these pay drivers. I know Checo is a pay driver as well. He brings in a lot of sponsorship, but that man can drive. Latifi cannot. And I just want to also talk about Haas. A really poor race for Haas. Obviously, 16th for Magnus and Schumacher in 17th. And that doesn't help Schumacher at all, right? There's a lot of talk right now between everyone. There's talks of Gunter called Daniel Ricciardo. That would be an interesting switch if he was to go down. I don't know if Haas can afford that, but it'd be an interesting one. But Schumacher's under pressure. He's had a few good results, but Formula One's a cutthroat business, and he can only really rely on the name of his father for so long. And look, I think it'd be grossly unfair to say he doesn't deserve a chance in Formula One. He obviously did very well in the junior feeder series. Of course, he's had Ferrari's backing on that, but there's talks of that might be over as well. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure for Schumacher, and he's got to start repaying Gunter with just a little bit of that, because for me, he's under pressure, and if he doesn't sort it out soon, he's at risk, for me personally, of not having a seat next season. And just finally, just ending on Sebastian, really. Obviously, we all know Charles has dropped down to 6th after his penalty. But I want to talk about Sebastian. Obviously, he was my vote of the day, driver of the day, mainly for nostalgia, really. It was quite nice seeing Sebastian at that end of the spectrum again. Obviously top 10, finishing 8th, was battling well with Fernando. It was quite nice to see them two together, actually, on the racetrack. So it's going to be a real shame when Sebastian leaves, and he's really changed over the last 2 years. Since he left Ferrari, he really has changed, and I'm loving it. He's totally at peace. He's happy. And I think he's showing a different side to us. There was a lot of pressure on him at Red Bull, obviously, when he was driving superbly every single race. But it's really nice to see Sebastian, up there, but also really happy of life, because ultimately Ferrari, he was under a lot of pressure. German, obviously, like Schumacher, so everyone was like, well, you've got to win a title, and all of that, and that never really materialized, did it? And for whatever reason, whether that be Sebastian mistakes or Ferrari mistakes, it never truly happened. And it's fantastic to see Sebastian happy again, and enjoying his final few races. So he was my driver of the day. For pure nostalgia, I could have given it to Sebastian, to Alex Albon, and more importantly, probably also Max Verstappen, because Max was a completely different league today than any other driver, and that I think we'll continue to see. I think we're probably going to see another stage of dominance. If Red Bull can just keep providing Max with a car that is competitive, I think he'll win most titles that come his way. Could we see Max win 8? I don't want to commit to that just yet. But if Red Bull give him, he's won 1, so he needs another 7. If Red Bull give him 7 years of competitive machinery, then yes, I think he certainly can win 8, because I think he's that good. But of course, we're seeing him against a Ferrari team that are just lost. I mean, they do not know what to do. Their strategy is so poor most days, and I feel for Leclerc. I really do, because they pitted him on lap 4, put him towards the back of the grid, made him fight through the whole pack again, whilst Max is there chilling at, in the top 5 at that point. And it's the same old Ferrari. It's just the way it is, really, with Ferrari. But look, that's Vinizio only very quick ones. I just want to give my thoughts and obviously get your thoughts in the comments of what you thought. Do you think Lewis should retire? Do you think it's time for him to hang up his race boots? Like Sebastian, we could sit here forever and discuss that. But let me know what your thoughts are. And yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back. Obviously, this is going out today, obviously Sunday. So weekly review / preview for Tuesday's midweek games are on Monday. And we'll be back on with This Week in F1 Wednesday with me, Charles, and Chris, giving the rundown of the Belgian Grand Prix, some more thoughts, and whatever else happens in the world of Formula One, because it can be a circus, as I'm sure you're all aware. But until next time, thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.